Hello students. Today we're going to learn how to solve inequalities. Now we're going to look at a few different things. First of all, we're going to learn all the different signs and what they mean. Next, I'm going to teach you some simple inequalities, teach you how to solve them, and then I'm going to throw you a few curveballs with some special situations with negatives. Alright, first things first, you have to learn what all the different signs mean. Now here I've written down the 4 different signs that you'll find in inequalities. It's really important that you learn these because this will dictate whether you get the answer to a problem right or wrong. First over here, we've got x is greater than. So this over here is greater than. Now we've got less than up next. Now this one's a little tricky, it switches it up a little bit. This line under the greater than sign, it basically means equal to. So it's greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal. Now you got the same thing going on over here except it's less than. Less than or equal to. Alright, so here I've written down a few examples. All I want you guys to do here is look at the inequality symbols, so the circled part's right here, and tell me what it is. So greater than, less than, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at this first one. So really all you're looking for is which way is the symbol pointing. Now when we say that, we're talking about which way is the mouth pointing, the wide part. And so we see that this first one, it's pointing left. So left is always going to be your identifier. If it's pointing left, it's going to be greater than. So that we know that this one is greater than. Now let's look at this next one. Now it's same thing which way the mouth is pointing. It's pointing to the right, so we know that it's actually less than. Now we're looking at the same thing. We see the line under here, so we know that it's going to be equal to. So we look at which way the mouth is pointing. We see it's greater than. Then remember that it's also or equal to. So make sure to add that in at the end. And this last one over here, we see the mouth is pointing towards the right, so we know it's less than. And then you've got the line under it indicating that it's also equal to. So there you go. That's how you identify the symbols. Alright, next up we're going to learn how to solve some simple inequalities. Now remember, these are basically algebra problems, except instead of your normal equal sign, you've got your inequality symbol there in place of that. So really, it's just something that you've learned before and adding a little dimension to it. Let's look at this first one. Now, all these problems, I'm using x as the variable, so we're going to be solving for x. But any problem that's given to you, you could be solving for any given variable. So an m, y, z, whatever. Now, let's treat this like an algebra problem for right now. Let's just start off with 8x plus 3 equals 27. All right, let's just use that first. Now, first rule, we want to get the variable and the numbers on opposite sides, right? Minus 3, 8x equals 24. Now you still got one more step over here. You want to get rid of this 8. Since it's multiplication, you use division, right? Divide by 8, you get x equals 3. Now comes the inequality. So you want to look at the symbol that you had initially, and basically just put it in place of the equal sign. So you see that we had a less than over here. X is less than 3. There's your answer. Alright, here's our next problem over here. X squared plus 7 is greater than or equal to 56. Now let's start off just putting it into a normal algebra equation. Alright, you got your equal signs in there. Now you want to solve. Minus 7, x squared equals 49. Now remember, to get rid of an x squared, what you do is you take the square root of both sides. So square root. You're left with x is equal to the square root of 49. You type that into your calculator, you know x is equal to 7. Now don't forget about your inequality up here. It's greater than or equal to, so just substitute that in for the equal sign. X is greater than or equal to 7. And there's your answer. Alright, there's one last thing that we need to learn. Solving inequalities with negatives. This is a really important rule that we need to pay attention to, or else it'll trip you up and, cause you to miss a few problems. So the rule is, when dividing or multiplying by a negative, the inequality sign must be flipped. Now here's an example of that, where we got negative 5x is less than 25. Pretty simple. The only thing that's going to trip you up over here is the negative. So, we treat it like it's just an algebra equation, negative 5x equal to 25. All right, divide by negative 5, both sides. Get x is equal to negative 5. Now, our original inequality symbol was a less than. So you put a less than in, you're thinking, oh, I'm done. No, since you divided by a negative, there's one next step that you got to do. Instead of putting in the same symbol, you put in the opposite. So you got a less than, you change it to greater than. You have a greater than, you change it to less than, so on and so forth. Same thing applies when you have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. All right, to finish off, we're going to do two more inequalities with negatives. And you can go ahead and write these down in your notebooks and solve them with me. So, first rule, you don't want to just set it to an algebra equation. So we've got over here, negative 2x squared minus 5 is equal to negative 37. Now let's just start, it's just a normal algebra equation. Treat it as such. Negative 2x squared is equal to, negative 37 plus 5 is going to be negative 32. Now the next rule, you want to get rid of this negative 2. So here's the point where we're dividing by a negative. So this is where that flipping the symbol will come into play later. So when you divide a negative by a negative, what do you get? You get a positive. So you're left with x squared is equal to negative 32 divided by negative 2 is going to be 16. Now to get rid of this square, what do? You take the square root. Do that on both sides. X is equal to 4. Now there's your answer algebraically. Now we just need to remember to bring in this inequality symbol up here. We started with a less than or equal to, and we divided by a negative over here on the left side. So that tells you that we're going to have to flip the symbol. So we're left with x is greater than or equal to 4. Now over here onto our next problem. Pretty simple. Change it into algebra. Equal to 69. All right. First thing you want to do is get rid of this 5, right? Minus 5 minus 5. Negative 8x is equal to 64. You want to divide by the negative 8 to get x by itself. X is equal to, now a positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative, right? So we're left with negative 8. X equals negative 8. Now we got to bring in the inequality. Since we divided by a negative, you need to flip it. So x is less than negative 8 is our final answer. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys really learned something and apply this in your classes.